Hi, welcome everyone to Nikki Loves Books. I'm Nikki, and today we will be going over my review of Throne of Glass, Book 1 in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. So this is the first official book in the series. There are a few novellas that happened prior to Book 1. That collection is known as the book as The Assassin's Blade. And I do already have a book review and book recap of that collection of novellas, and it's linked below. So again, it's known as The Assassin's Blade. You do not actually need to read The Assassin's Blade to understand Throne of Glass, and I do know, if I remember correctly, those novellas came out after Throne of Glass did. So a lot of people did read those novellas out of order, myself included originally, and you can just watch the recap if you don't want to bother with The Assassin's Blade. A lot of the events that happen in the novellas are briefly mentioned throughout the book, so the novellas are just extra fun for the fans. So by all means, you're more than welcome to not read The Assassin's Blade and just watch my recap, or go ahead and start with the novellas first. Or of course, you can read Throne of Glass first and then go back and read the novellas. So you have a lot of choices and options when it comes to, whether you want to read them now, read them later, not read them at all. So I did give the Throne of Glass book a 9 out of 10. I absolutely adore the series. I've read it a few times now, and I'm so excited to share my 9 favorite things about the Throne of Glass book. Before we jump in, I do want to let everyone know there are no spoiler warnings in this review. I did realize with my previous book review that I did do spoilers, and I just don't think that that's right. Of course, I did put a spoiler warning in that video. Moving forward, I am going to try not to do spoilers in my book reviews, just because I know that a lot of people watch book reviews or read them simply because they want to know more about the book and not necessarily the spoilers about the book. They want to see if they would be interested in reading it, and they don't want things spoiled for them. So I will try my best not to spoil books in the future. So to give it a little background story before we jump into my favorite things about it, the Throne of Glass series is a young adult fantasy series that takes place in the fictional land of Aurelia, and does follow the main character, Celaena Sardathian, who is a young woman who's an assassin. So book 1 of Throne of Glass, we do find Celaena Sardathian, Ardalan's infamous assassin, in a labor camp for crimes, and that was her punishment. And she does get released on the terms that she will partake in a competition involving other ruthless killers, thieves, and warriors to compete over who would be the king's champion. So she's entered into this contest, practically against her will, but it's either stay in the labor camp and probably die, just in a matter of time, or take place in this competition and hopefully come out on top, which, considering that she was Ardalan's most infamous assassin, she believes she has this in the bag. However, things start getting a little creepy in the sense that something or someone is hunting down all the participants in this competition and killing them pretty gruesomely. So that is kind of the general summary of Throne of Glass book 1. So let's go ahead and jump into my top 9 things that I loved about Throne of Glass book 1. So the first one is the world. The world in Throne of Glass is very imaginative. It's very beautiful and haunting in a lot of ways. Sarah J. Maas, I believe, is really great at world building. I was definitely immersed and really excited to know more. Specifically, what I loved about the world building is that it feels very dynamic. It feels very real, in the sense of, you have different countries, you have different races, you have the political intrigue of, one of the kings taking over multiple places, and then you need to kind of know what's driving him. Like, is he just straight up evil, or does he have a hidden agenda? What's the deal with magic? Why isn't it working correctly? I think world building is one of Maas's best talents that she has as a writer. Which gets on to my second favorite thing about Throne of Glass Book 1 is Sarah J. Maas's writing. I think she is a fantastic writer. She doesn't waste a lot of time describing things. I do always appreciate that. I've always had a problem reading, and this is blasphemy, but I've always had a problem reading Tolkien just because the description is just so detailed, so long, and it really kind of pulls me away from the story. Like, we're too busy talking about the green of the trees that I have forgotten what's happening. Sarah J. Maas does a really great job of balancing where we understand the world, but we're not spent, sidelined by all the details. So she has a way of kind of weaving the story with the backstory and the world building in a way that it's so fluid. She is also really good at making characters that are likable, even though that, of course, they have unlikable traits. So this will come up a few times because there's characters that you kind of go back and forth, or at least I did, back and forth as, being a huge fan of, and then they do something and you're like, wait, dude, not cool. Like, what the heck? But that is very believable. Of course, we have people in our lives that we love and we think they're fantastic, but they have bad traits. And so there's moments in our lives where we're just like, oh, dude, not good, not cool. You might really even hate that person in that moment. So she makes very believable characters. Sarah J. Maas also does, I think, a really good job of helping the reader understand what the characters are feeling. And sometimes in just one sentence. She doesn't need to drag on and on and on. It could literally be one sentence and we get it. As the reader, a lot of times you'll even feel it with the character. So she's a fantastic writer. I highly recommend her. So the third thing that I loved in the Throne of Glass book is actually the dynamics between the different characters. There's a lot of love. There's also a lot of bickering and snide comments, which I always love. A lot of these conversations had me chuckling out loud simply because they are so funny and so something that I could see myself doing with my friends. To highlight some of the dynamics, you have Chaol and Dorian, who have this very fraternal, brotherly love that is just so wholesome. I do really like this healthy friendship between these two cisgendered men, and there's no shame about it. They're both very comfortable in the feelings that they have for each other. I always think it's great to have two cisgendered heterosexual males to have a deep friendship portrayed in any sort of media with no shame, with no questions or jokes about the fact that they're so close, or that they hug, or that they love each other and have no qualms showing that. I think that's incredibly healthy to show that more often and as many avenues as we can, just because there are a lot of problems around the portrayal of cisgendered heterosexual friendships. There's usually teasing involved, there's usually put downs, there's usually embarrassment and shame. So I think it's great that Sarah J. Maas included a dynamic like that. The other dynamics that I liked in Throne of Glass was, of course, Celaena and Chaol. And then with Celaena and Dorian, both of these relationships have a lot of bantering, a lot of undercut comments, and of course sexual tension and chemistry. So you do have Celaena and Chaol that have a strong chemistry, and then you also have Dorian and Celaena that have a strong chemistry. So makes things a little complicated. So the fourth thing that I liked about the Throne of Glass book is actually Celaena Sardathian. So I am a huge fan of Celaena Sardathian. If I could be any fictional character in a book, I would probably be her. There are quite a few similar traits between me and her, except I'm not as cool, I'm not an assassin, I'm not as badass. You will probably get tired of me talking about Selena just because I am such a huge fan. Selena is one of my favorite characters because she's this badass assassin. So she's totally capable of taking care of herself, even though she's also on the other extreme of being very superficial and very concerned about her appearance, and then really being into super girly things like ball gowns, jewelry, and of course she is a book reader, which I love. So I think Selena is really cool. She also tends to be very blunt, and is not big into courtly manners or showing respect for people who have earned it, and I'm like, okay, cool, they have a title because they were born into that, yay them. So I kind of like this piss poor attitude, just being like, yeah, whatever, I don't care if you're a king, I don't care if you're a prince, I don't care if you're a duke. She doesn't follow the norms of society in a lot of ways, so I think she's fantastic. I really, really appreciate her as a character. So, loving Selena Sardathian brings me into number 5 of what I loved about Throne of Glass Book 1 is Selena's hate and rage. Kind of odd for me to like something that obviously most people would be like, oh, that's a terrible thing to like. But specifically, the reason why her rage and hatred were something that I enjoyed is because it totally makes sense for someone who has experienced what she has in her life. She is completely traumatized by multiple events in her life, and all she's trying to do now is protect herself, and it just resonated so much with me. And it's not that she doesn't care about people, it's not that she hates people. She wishes she did. There's a part of her that wish she could say the hell with everything, the hell with people, I don't care about anyone or anything. And it's because she doesn't want to be hurt again. She doesn't want to experience the loss of them, or that, that deep-seated fear of, oh, once these people get close to me and know the real me, they're going to walk away. They're going to reject me. They're going to actually hate who I am because I am so damaged. I'm so broken. So her rage and hate was something I loved just because it really felt honest, and especially when you look at trauma in real life. A lot of people react this way of, they think something's wrong with them, and that's why bad things happen to them. And therefore, the only way to protect self is to push everyone away. And I just really liked this about her character because it's so sad. We have this very caring, very open-hearted, big-hearted person who is super sensitive and wants to save everyone, but because of what she's already been through, she now wants no part in it because she is trying to protect that soft center. She's trying not to be hurt ever again in her life, which, of course, it's not possible. And I think that that need to protect self, of course, is automatic and it's human, but I think it's something that a lot of us can identify with. And I think people getting jaded due to trauma, due to bad experiences, and then trying to protect that gooey, soft inside is very relatable, I think, for a lot of us. So before we move on to the next 4 things that I loved about the Throne of Glass book, I do want to remind you all that please subscribe. So I will be doing more book reviews and book recaps going forward. So I'd love to have you guys join me for those and continue keeping up with Nikki Loves Books. So thank you again. Hit that subscribe button. So the 6th thing that I liked about the Throne of Glass book is specifically a scene, and I like to call it the Cinderella scene, because Selena shows up to a ball in a dress that is very much what you could imagine Cinderella's dress would look like in real life. I love ball gowns, but I obviously don't have any reason to wear one. Like, I guess I could do these videos in ball gowns. So I love this scene specifically because Selena's in this beautiful ball gown that I'm super jelly of, and I have no reason to wear a ball gown, but I freaking love them. And you know, so it's the fact that she's wearing this beautiful gown that I want in real life, but it's also the reaction she gets from other characters, you know, so them seeing her in this gown and how they interact with her and how they like it. I actually also love the scene because Sarah J. Maas actually said that Cinderella was kind of the inspiration for the Throne of Glass series, in the sense of, she was like, what if Cinderella was actually an assassin undercover or something like that? And so that always kind of stuck with me, and why I love that scene is just because I'm like, yeah, Cinderella assassin, it sounds fantastic. Obviously it made a very successful story, so go Sarah J. Maas. The seventh thing that I loved about the Throne of Glass book is the final battle. So I have read this book about 3 times, and regardless of knowing the outcome, knowing how everything turns out and how it goes down, the final battle still puts me on edge. I am literally reading it like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I know what happens. Like, there's no reason for me to be losing my mind, but that's how well written it is. It is so exciting. I could not ever stop reading during that final battle scene. It's like, you need to know what happens. So the final battle I thought was really well done. Like, this final battle is just completely epic. So you have, you know, the 2 characters who are both really strong, but you have one that I'm like, dude, talk about some major steroids. And the battle goes beyond just the physical, you know, so you have them battling physically, but then you have the mental and magical component that gets thrown in there, and you're like, oh my god, how is this even gonna be righted, you know, like, how is this gonna go down? So the final battle is just absolutely epic, and like I said, it keeps you at the edge of your seat. You're not gonna be able to put it down. The 8th thing that I liked about Throne of Glass Book 1 was actually some of the references to what happened in the Assassin's Blade, which of course are the novellas, and it was also really exciting to find out about the novellas when I was reading Throne of Glass. So I literally cannot get enough of Selena Sardathian, and so it was really cool to have those references and then be able to actually say, oh, like, there's novella with this, so let me go read it and I can get more information. And again, just remember that the Assassin's Blade is the collection of the novellas, and I linked below my recap of the Assassin's Blade as well as my review. Lastly, the 9th thing that I loved about the Throne of Glass Book 1 was, of course, the continuation of the story into Crown of Midnight, Throne of Glass Book 2. So that's how much I'm invested in the story, is that I am like super excited that there is a book 2. Like, I need more of Selena Sardathian. I need to know more about her. I also need to know more about the world, and that's how much I loved Throne of Glass Book 1, is that I need to know. I need to know what happens next. So there is Book 2, Crown of Midnight, and it's just this drive to need to know of what happens to Selena, because I absolutely love her, but I also want to know what happened to her prior to this point. What's her backstory, because it still seems to be shrouded in mist, and what's up with the King of Ardenland? Like, what's his problem? Just need to know. I need more of the story. So it was just really fantastic to find out that Throne of Glass continues into the Crown of Midnight, which of course I will be having a review and recap of that book as well. I will be doing a full recap of Throne of Glass Book 1, so look forward to that. Once those videos are up and running, of course there'll be links down below in the description of this video, so stay tuned for all of that, and thank you so much for joining me here at Nikki Loves Books. Please remember to subscribe, but also comment, like, share, and especially with the comments, let me know what you did like about Throne of Glass, what you did agree with me as far as what my favorite things were. Did you have other things that you liked about it? Did you not like some things about Throne of Glass? I would really like to find out what other people's viewpoints and experience was with Throne of Glass book 1 if you've already read it. Or, you know, by all means, let me know if, due to my review, that you want to read this book. And of course, I do have a link to buying the book Throne of Glass down in the description. I also have a link to this specific collector's edition. I love this edition of the Throne of Glass book. So again, thank you all for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Thanks so much. See you next time.